The views and opinions expressed on the Craig L. Hayes Show do not necessarily reflect those of Westgate Resorts, its ownership, or management. And now, on with the show.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Get your copies while they last. Stop the presses.
And now for something completely different.
Are you ready for a little truth? Are we not entertained? Wisdom is the proper use of knowledge and experience. There are no safe spaces here. The truth shall make you free. It's showtime! So you want the truth, but can you handle the truth? Well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into. Now that's entertainment. Enlighten me a little. What you say is quite logical. And what did we learn? Prepare yourself for a little sensory overload. I came here for the truth. 7 years ago. Stand by to roll show intro. Roll show intro in 3, 2, 1, go.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
Hello, America, family, friends, and listeners all around this planet we call home. This is the Craig L. Hayes Show. I am Craig L. Hayes. Today is the 23rd of October, 2024. And once again, we're doing the entertainment interviews from the Westgate Resort in Las Vegas in Elvis Presley's dressing room in the International Showroom. Just want to say thank you again to Cammie Christensen, Don Rawl, and John Peer for helping me make this happen, do these shows from this venue. And we're going to continue on doing our entertainment segment and interviews. And today we're going to talk to a guy I've known for quite a while, a friend of the family for many years, been in business. He's been to, he's flown on helicopters quite a bit. I know that. And he's been a stagehand, stage manager, stage director, and entertainment, everything you can imagine. He's been around the block and then some. So today I'd just like to welcome to the show Ron Stone. Ron, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, sir.
We're glad to have you here today. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about, we do a little bit of discussion about the past, kind of where you came from, how you got into show business, what got you into the business, and that's where we're going to start. Is tell us a little bit about the past Ron Stone of many years ago.
Well, it started back in Seattle. When I came back from Vietnam, I went to the theater and saw a show called Kiss Me Kate. And I just, at that point, kind of fell in love with the whole idea of theater and backstage and lights and curtains and you name it. It just seemed exciting to me. And I said, well, I'm just going to see if I can't do that for a living. It looks like something I'd love to do. So off I went, came to Las Vegas and started running a spotlight and never looked back. I enjoyed my entire career.
Where did you start working? I mean, where were you? Where was the first call? Where did you start running spot? Which hotel? Just a little bit about, because Vegas has changed from the days that, that we've all been here for many years, and it has drastically changed.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, the first call I ever got was right here at the Hilton, running a spotlight in the lounge. And it was kind of a funny lounge. Just to note that in those days, there was a wall in the booth. We couldn't see out, so you had to open the door, and there was a mirror on the door, so you could see the stage. The only problem was that the door opened to the audience, and every time an audience member walked by, they would close the door. So we lost sight of the show.
So the hinges got a lot of work out on that door.
They did.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when I was at the Mint, we were backstage, and we just had a little camera out front so we could kind of see what was going on. We make do with whatever we can to make the show happen. I know that. So you remember the show that you did when you were here, when your first call?
The first show I did in the main showroom was Liberace.
Liberace, way back then.
Yeah. And then the next show was Johnny Cash and then Glenn Campbell, I do believe.
Nice. We've had, let's see, Johnny Cash was here just before he died, and Glenn Campbell was here just before he died. Not saying this place does that to you, but hey. No, it was great having those guys here in their later years, doing one more show.
Yeah. And back then it seemed like entertainers traveled more with their families than they do today. Today they make their appearance like they're paid to do, but back then it was more of a, I don't know, more of an event, it seemed like to me.
So, but you didn't stay here in Vegas, I know that. And didn't you go up to Tahoe or Reno or one of those, right, eventually, and work up there too?
Yes, I was called up to Del Webb in Reno and opened the new Sahara Hotel up there when it opened, and I was there 15 years before I came back here.
And what was your position there? I mean, what was your...
Actually, I was hired as lighting director,
Okay.
and the turn of events came to be, and they made me the technical director, and I just ran the crews and so on from there.
And that's when you started going into management, because I know eventually you came back down here and started working in management at some of the hotels, Bally's, and I know for Circus Properties too. You were in management. And what was that like, having to be on the other side of the table of the stage crew?
Well, in a way, it was kind of fun in that. The stagehands tend to want to challenge a person, especially a new person that they're not sure of. They want to know what you know and what you can do, and how full of baloney you really are.
That's true. I understand that. Yeah.
But it went along quite well. I got along with everybody and got a few promotions and became a technical director, and it was a position that I really enjoyed because I got to work with people, and I learned that the real knack is to get people to want to work, not force them to do it. And it just honed my management skills a little, I guess you'd say.
Well, all I can say is I don't know if I ever got anybody that wanted to work here at the Westgate. In 30 years, everybody did their job pretty much, and people wanting to work. You always had your few oddballs that did that type of a thing, So, what are some of the shows you've done that were, TD? I know you. I'd like to say you were over at Excalibur. Wasn't you over at Excalibur when they brought in that Kings tournament or a King Arthur or whatever tournament?
Oh, Tournament of Kings.
Tournament of Kings, that's it, okay.
Yeah. Actually, no, I was next door at the Luxor.
Oh, okay.
And I did go over and do some consulting and so on with some of the sets and a few of the problems they were having. But basically, I was at the Luxor most of the time.
So how many years do you think you worked out of Local 720 or the local up in Reno as a stagehand and versus management?
It was, well, I guess I was a stagehand for about 15 to 16 years, and the rest of my time in management was probably 35 years.
Wow. Quite a bit extra there in management. Which one did you enjoy the most?
I actually enjoyed being a manager because I got to do a lot of things that you just wouldn't get to do as a stagehand. I don't know quite how to describe that, but it was I don't know. It was a challenge to go upstairs and talk to the guys in the Puzzle Palace and try to make sense to them out of what we were doing and why we were doing it.
That brings me to a really good point here. Nobody understands what we do.
Yeah.
The whole hotel says, oh, those are the guys that make the show happen. But they have no concept, no idea what it takes from us to make that show that they walked in and they had signed and contracted, whatever, happen. It's just, and all they have to do is come down and just watch for a little while and see how much work goes into something, then they'd get a better idea. So you trying to explain everything that has to happen to people who have no concept is, yeah, I understand that. I have had to do that so many times here with so many different managers and stuff. It's,
Oh, I know. And one example of that comes to mind. I was thinking about while you were talking that I had a what we call a bean counter, from upstairs, and I was putting on some cable clamps, and one day on a set that was over the audience, which is a critical place to be.
yeah.
So he said, well, do you know how much those clamps cost each? And I said, well, no, actually I don't, but I'll tell you what. Why don't you stand up under here? It only weighs about 2,000 pounds. And you stand up under here, and I'll start taking them off till you tell me to quit.
Start saving you money. Yeah. Yeah. If you think a $50 clamp or something is expensive, wait till you get a $2 million lawsuit because something fell on someone.
That's a fact. There you go.
I was with Del Webb for 3 years. I was their stage manager down at the Mint in downtown Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the greatest times, and and I've been. I'll have to say, Del Webb ran a very tight management ship from everything I saw. My boss was the general manager, president of the hotel. That's the only person who was above me. I answered to. So basically, I could get anything I wanted and do whatever I wanted, and just sign his name to it and his comp number or whatever. Good times. Hilton was a very efficient management system, but we've all worked for places, that lack that what do you call the finesse, the professionalism, stuff like that. Not saying anything is bad about some of the other places, but there's a different degrees I found of management skills along with stagehand skills. Everyone has different levels of skills. But I have to say that Del Webb and Hilton were a couple, I would say, top ranked, and enjoyed working with their organizations. I came over here. This place was a Hilton, and it's maintained pretty good on that level. I have to say that. But no one understands that Hilton, man. They do inspections like every 6 months on the property, and they find every little nook and cranny that's bad, and they want it fixed, and it costs a fortune to do that. And just to have the Hilton name on the side of a building, it's like $6 million a year to Hilton Corporation if you're franchising. It's different levels, and you see that all around town here. So you hear the stories of who's got good management, who's got bad, and good management here. been blessed to have some good managers here. I've had a couple that I didn't really care for back in the past. But if someone was to talk to you about that, where would you consider yourself to be as far as a manager? Weird question, I know, but
Well, like I kind of alluded to a few minutes ago, that you got to find a way to get people to want to work, and that, I know that sounds kind of like a strange statement, but I just don't think that stagehands are the type of people, and a lot of them with their intelligence level, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that there's a lot of dummies out there, but most of them are pretty smart. That they I lost my train of thought there for a second. Sorry.
well, getting people to work is where we're headed with that stuff. Getting people to want to work is where we're headed on that one.
Yeah, true enough. And just putting people in the right positions. And there was been times, for example, that I had a head carpenter and a stage manager, and I just felt that they were in the opposite positions. They were just wrong. And I talked to both of them and said, how about if we just swap your positions? And surprisingly enough, they were very anxious to do exactly that. They said, yes, indeed. So I thought, well, that worked out for the good.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that anytime you wanted, move people around like that, but them wanting to go along with it, that says a lot about what you were doing. You know, that that you recognized it and they saw that you know, they would be happier doing something different. That does work out good. Doesn't happen very often like that. You usually get the people kicking and screaming and crying about it, and no, I don't want to do that, you know.
Yeah.
But well, all I know is I don't think I've ever worked for you as my boss, as a stage, you know, technical director or anything like that. But I've seen how you work around other people, and I will say that I think you would probably be one of the better bosses up there, you know, to work for. I know my brother Scott sings your praises all the time, you know.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just try to give the people the respect that I wanted when I was working as a stagehand, and I just thought a lot of managers that recognized what you were doing and appreciated what you were doing. So I kind of looked at them and said, geez, someday if I'm a manager, I hope to be like that. So I just kind of retained those things.
Yeah. I saw that too. When I was working out on the bounce, doing a lot of calls and stuff, I'd see how, you know, people on the bounce were treated and how they were basically thought of as, you know, just garbage people that came in to help do show changes and stuff like that. And I always said, you know, when I'm in charge one day, that type of stuff is not going to happen, you know. And I've tried never to do that myself, and hopefully I accomplished it. Tried to do it. Treat everybody with respect, like you said. You just said it. You know, treat everybody like they want to be treated, and then get the most out of them. I think you get more out of people when you do stuff like that. Just don't treat them like they're garbage. You know, treat them like they're an asset that need to be looked at and cultivated. You know, we've got some talented people. In this room, we've got some extremely talented people, you know, in this showroom. And it's hard keeping talented people around, you know, if you're not taking good care of them.
Well, sure, because they're in demand.
Yeah. You know, and that to keep people coming back to do just jobs here and there, like we do with, you know, Barry Manilow's show, They come back in for 6 nights a month basically, but they keep coming back, which says a lot about the property and the way that the people are taken care of and treated. So I think we're both in agreement on that side of it. I think we both have a lot of the same ideas on that. But what we're going to do is we're going to stop this episode right here, and then we're going to go to the next episode, which I think might be your last one because you want to do about an hour, right?
Yeah.
So we'll do this one. That's about 24 minutes right now, and then we'll come back and we'll do episode number 2. Until then,
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
good.
Well,
I find it a lot harder to get interviewed and do these things in